Dr. Amanda Roberts hadn't slept in 36 hours when the first anomaly appeared on her quantum detection array. At first, she dismissed it as another glitch in the system. They'd been getting those ever since the Arcturus incident last month. But when the secondary arrays at SETI all lit up simultaneously, she felt the familiar flutter of adrenaline in her chest. "Jerry, are you seeing this?" She leaned forward in her chair, adjusting her thick-rimmed glasses as she studied the impossibly regular pattern of signals. The night shift technician wheeled his chair over, a half-eaten sandwich forgotten in his hand. "Holy shit," he whispered, dropping his dinner. "That's not natural. And it's not Arcturus." Amanda's fingers flew across the holographic keyboard, bringing up comparative analyses. "These signatures, they're crystalline in nature, like nothing we've ever seen before." The detection system's alarm chose that moment to blare through the facility, red warning lights painting the control room in an apocalyptic glow. Amanda's tablet buzzed with priority notifications from observatories worldwide. Whatever this was, everyone was seeing it. Within an hour, the Joint Chiefs of Staff were on a secure line. Amanda found herself briefing 4-star generals while still wearing her coffee-stained lab coat. In simple terms, Dr. Roberts, General Matthews interrupted her technical explanation. "Are we looking at another Arcturus situation?" She understood his concern. The Arcturus incident had left half of Florida's coast in ruins. "No, sir. These are different. The energy signatures are peaceful, for lack of a better word. They're making no attempt to hide their approach. In fact," she paused, double-checking her readings, "they're broadcasting in multiple frequencies. I think they're trying to talk to us." The ships appeared over Washington, D.C. at dawn. 7 crystalline vessels, each one a masterpiece of geometric perfection, hovering silently above the National Mall. They caught the morning light like massive prisms, painting the city below in rainbow hues. The sight was beautiful enough to make Amanda's breath catch in her throat as her helicopter approached the hastily established command center. The beings that emerged were just as stunning as their ships. Tall, luminescent forms that seemed to flow rather than walk, their translucent bodies pulsing with soft inner light. Amanda stood among the assembled dignitaries, scientists, and military personnel as the aliens approached the greeting party. She noticed they carried no weapons, not even ceremonial ones. "We are the Serenians," their leader announced in perfect English, their voice resonating not through air but seemingly directly in everyone's minds. "We come in peace, though we bring grave news." The briefing that followed in the UN Security Council chamber would change human history forever. The Serenians spoke of the Coraxian Armada, a fleet of planet killers that had already reduced 12 civilizations to ash. They showed holographic recordings of entire worlds burning, of species being systematically exterminated or enslaved. "Earth is next in their path," the Serenian ambassador, Vale, explained. Their crystalline form dimmed slightly, perhaps in sympathy. "We felt obligated to warn you." Amanda noticed something in Vale's tone, or perhaps in the subtle fluctuations of their inner light. "You've done this before, haven't you? Warned others?" Vale turned to her, their faceted surface reflecting multiple versions of her concerned expression. "Yes, we believe in giving all species a chance to prepare." "You mean evacuate?" General Matthews growled from his seat. "Run away." "It is the logical choice," Vale responded. "The corrections cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be fought. All who have tried have fallen." Amanda watched as the general exchanged glances with other military leaders in the room. She recognized that look. It was the same one she'd seen during the Arcturus crisis. Determination, not defeat. "With all due respect," Matthews said, standing, "you don't know humans very well." Vale's crystalline form shifted, emanating curiosity. "What do you mean?" "We don't run." Amanda found herself speaking up, surprising even herself. "We protect what's ours. And if these corrections think they can just show up and burn our world." She stood straighter, feeling the weight of this moment in history. Well, they're about to learn why that's a very bad idea. What the humans in that room didn't notice was the subtle change in Vale's inner light, a flicker of intense interest. The Serenians had come to deliver a warning. They stayed to observe something they'd never seen before. A species that, when faced with overwhelming odds, chose to stand and fight not out of hatred or pride, but out of love for what they protected. The experiment had begun. Neural interface compatibility at 87%, Dr. Amanda Roberts announced, her voice tight with excitement. The holographic display showed a pulsing connection between Lieutenant Sarah Chen's nervous system and the salvaged alien tech they'd been studying. Admiral James Cooper leaned forward in his chair, eyes sharp despite having been awake for the past 20 hours. That's nearly double what the Centaurians achieved. How? It's our DNA. Amanda pulled up a complex molecular diagram. There's something unique about human neural plasticity. We adapt faster, form new connections more readily. The real question is, why didn't the Serenians tell us about this? From their crystalline observation pod, Vale watched the humans work. The Serenian had noticed how quickly they'd moved from shock to action. While other species spent months debating evacuation plans, humanity had immediately begun Operation Lighthouse, transforming their orbital infrastructure into a defensive network. Fascinating. Vale communicated to the Serenian High Council. They've achieved in weeks what the Proxima spent years developing. A civilian cargo ship passed by the window, its hull now bristling with hastily mounted weapon systems. The humans called them space technicals, a term that made Vale's crystalline form vibrate with curiosity. Down in the testing chamber, Lieutenant Chen opened her eyes. "I can feel it," she whispered. "The ship's systems, they're like an extension of my body." Admiral Cooper's comm unit buzzed. His face hardened as he read the message. The Arcturus Defense Fleet reports 6 more species have abandoned their outer colonies. They're running. Amanda looked up from her console. "And us. President's orders stand. We fortify every inch of human space." He stood, straightening his uniform. "How soon can we implement this neural interface fleet-wide?" 2 weeks for basic systems, maybe a month for full integration. Amanda paused. "Sir, about the civilian ships. I know what you're going to say, Doctor. We don't have enough military vessels." "No, sir. I was going to say I've got 50 civilian captains who volunteered for the neural interface procedure. They want to fight." Vale's crystalline form pulsed with surprise. The Serenian transmitted another observation to the Council. They armed their merchants, their miners, their research vessels. Every human, regardless of function, prepares to defend their space. The next week proved Vale's observation prophetic. Amanda worked with a team of engineers to adapt the neural interface for different vessel types. Mining lasers were modified into point defense systems. Cargo holds were converted into fighter bays. Even the massive solar collection arrays were being repurposed as energy weapon platforms. But it was during a routine test that Vale witnessed something truly unprecedented. A malfunction in the testing chamber caused a power surge. Without hesitation, Lieutenant Chen used her neural link to redirect the energy into her own interface, saving the technicians but suffering severe neural shock. Vale rushed to the medical bay, arriving as Amanda checked on Chen's condition. Why did she risk herself? The Serenian asked. The technicians were not military personnel. Amanda looked up, surprised by the question. They're human. That's all that matters. But she had no duty to protect them. Duty? Amanda shook her head. You still don't understand us at all, do you? Before Vale could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Admiral Cooper's voice came over the intercom. All personnel to battle stations. Long-range sensors have detected Correxian scout ships in the Kuiper Belt. Vale watched in amazement as the humans moved with practiced precision, despite never having faced this threat before. Civilian ships formed up alongside military vessels, their newly installed weapons charging. Neural-linked pilots took their positions, their minds melding with their ship's systems. "Send word to the Council," Vale transmitted. "The humans have achieved something unprecedented. They've unified their entire species, not through force or fear, but through choice. Every human, from their warriors to their scholars, stands ready to defend not just themselves, but each other." As the first sensor contacts appeared on the long-range screens, Admiral Cooper turned to his bridge crew. "Remember, people, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species that couldn't fight back. Show these corrections what happens when they pick on the wrong planet." The battle for humanity's soul was about to begin, and the peaceful ones would witness every moment of it. The Harvest Festival lights still twinkled across Denver's sprawling arcology when the first Correxian ships darkened the sky. Commander Lisa Martinez watched from her neural command pod as the massive vessels descended through the atmosphere, their hull plating absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "Ghost Fleet, sound off," she subvocalized through the neural link. One by one, her pilots responded. Their consciousness merged with their ships just as hers was. Among them was Mike Chen, a former cargo pilot who'd refused to evacuate with the other civilians. "They're deploying in standard conquest formation," Martinez observed, recognizing the pattern from Serenian intelligence briefings, "just like they did on Proxima Centauri. They expect us to break and run." A tight smile crossed her face. "Let's show them how Earth does things." The Correxian command ship broadcast its message across all frequencies: submit or be destroyed. The same ultimatum they'd given 12 other worlds. Martinez's response was simple: "Ghost Fleet, execute Operation Firefly." 50 small ships suddenly decloaked between the Correxian vessels, their neural-linked pilots moving with impossible precision. They were the smallest ships humanity had ever sent into combat, each barely larger than an old-style fighter jet. But size didn't matter when your consciousness was directly merged with your vessel. "Target their sensor arrays," Martinez ordered. "Don't let them track our evacuation ships." The Ghost Fleet struck like a swarm of angry hornets. Their small size and enhanced maneuverability made them nearly impossible for the Correxians' automated targeting systems to lock onto. Energy beams sliced through the larger vessel's external sensors, while modified mining charges attached to hull weak points. From his crystalline observation post, Vale watched in astonishment. "Impossible," the Serenian transmitted to the High Council. "They're using the Correction's size against them. The neural interfaces, they've turned their ships into extensions of human reflexes." But the Correxians hadn't conquered 12 civilizations by being unprepared. Their second wave dropped from orbit, smaller hunter-killer ships designed to counter fighter-sized vessels. "Evacuation status," Martinez demanded as her fleet engaged the new threat. 60% complete, came the response from ground control. "The children's shelters are still loading." That's when it happened. A Correxian destroyer broke through the defensive line, its weapons powering up to target the largest evacuation center, a converted school complex housing thousands of children. Mike Chen's voice came through the neural link. "Commander, I've got a full load of reactive plasma in my cargo hold." Martinez's blood ran cold. "Mike, don't you dare. My kids are already safe in the mountain bunkers," he cut her off. "These ones deserve the same chance." Before anyone could stop him, Chen's ship accelerated directly toward the destroyer's main weapon port. The Correxian vessel's point defenses tracked him, but he moved with the desperate precision of a man who knew exactly how he wanted his life to end. The explosion lit up the Denver sky like a second sun. The destroyer's weapon cascade failed catastrophically, forcing it to retreat into high orbit. In that crucial moment, the final evacuation ships escaped underground. Vale's crystalline form pulsed with powerful emotions as the Serenian observed this sacrifice. "High Council, we are witnessing something unprecedented. The humans' neural interfaces don't just enhance their combat capabilities, they allow them to share consciousness in their final moments." The entire Ghost Fleet felt their companion's sacrifice, and yet they fight on, harder than before. Martinez allowed herself one moment of grief for Mike before refocusing on the battle. Ghost Fleet, new formation. Show these bastards what we do to people who threaten our children. The battle for Denver became a turning point, not because of the tactical victory, but because of what the Corrections and Serenians learned that day. They discovered that humans had something neither species fully understood: the ability to turn sacrifice into strength, to transform loss into unshakable resolve. As the Correction fleet finally retreated from Earth's atmosphere, Vale transmitted one final observation. The humans do not merely fight. They do not merely defend. They transform their very consciousness, merge with their machines, and willingly give their lives, not for glory or duty, but for the simple purpose of protecting others. We must reconsider everything we thought we knew about violence and peace. The first wave had been repelled, but the real war was just beginning. Dr. Amanda Roberts stared at the data scrolling across her neural interface, her mind racing to process the implications. Beside her, Vale's crystalline form pulsed with an unusual frequency she'd learned to recognize as distress. "This can't be right," she muttered, but the numbers didn't lie. The Corrections' flight patterns, their aggressive expansion, their seemingly desperate push toward Earth's sector, it all pointed to something bigger. "They're running from something," Vale confirmed, their mental voice carrying an edge Amanda had never heard before. "Look at the pattern of their conquests." A holographic map materialized between them, showing the Correction Empire's expansion. They're not just building an empire, they're building a buffer zone. Admiral Cooper leaned against the briefing room wall, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. "A buffer zone against what?" "Unknown," Vale admitted. "But whatever it is, it's coming from the Perseus Void, a region of space even the Serenians haven't explored." Amanda's neural interface pinged with a priority alert. "Sir, we're getting telemetry from the deep space probes we sent through the last wormhole. You need to see this." The holographic display shifted, showing something that made even Vale's crystalline structure vibrate with shock. At the edge of known space, something was moving. Something massive. "Why didn't your people investigate this before?" Cooper demanded of Vale. The Serenians' response was quiet. "We chose not to involve ourselves. Our policy of non-intervention got 12 species wiped out," Cooper finished, "because you saw the threat and did nothing." Before Vale could respond, another alert blared through the facility. Commander Martinez's face appeared on the main screen, her neural link allowing her to transmit directly from her ship. "Admiral, we've detected a Correction slave transport near Europa. They're carrying prisoners from the Centauri colonies." Cooper straightened. "How many ships in escort?" 3 destroyers, heavy armament." "It's a trap," Vale warned. "They're trying to draw out your forces." Cooper smiled grimly. "Of course it is. And we're going to spring it." "Dr. Roberts, how's the new stealth system coming along?" Amanda pulled up the schematics through her neural link. "The quantum displacement field is stable. But sir, we've only tested it on small vessels." "Time to think bigger." Cooper turned to Martinez's projection. "Commander, prepare the Ghost Fleet. We're going to show the Corrections that humanity doesn't abandon people to slavery, no matter what species they are." Vale watched in fascination as the humans prepared for their rescue mission. Their neural interfaces hummed with increased activity, sharing tactical data and strategic plans faster than verbal communication would allow. "You know this could compromise your entire defensive position," Vale observed. Amanda looked up from her preparations. "Some things are worth the risk." The rescue operation was unlike anything Vale had ever witnessed. The Ghost Fleet didn't just attack. They executed a precision strike that specifically targeted the Corrections' slave control systems. Human neural interfaces allowed them to hack and disable the enemy's technology while keeping the prisoner transport intact. Through the neural network, Amanda watched as Cooper's flagship led the assault. The Corrections, expecting a frontal attack, found their formation split apart by ships appearing and disappearing like quantum ghosts. "This is why you'll win," Vale suddenly transmitted to Amanda. "Because of our technology. Because you choose to risk everything to save people you've never met. My people called it weakness, allowing emotion to drive tactical decisions. We were wrong." The battle ended in less than an hour. The Coraxian escorts were disabled, their crews captured, and over 3,000 prisoners were freed from the transport. But it was what they found in the Coraxian ship's databases that changed everything. Star charts, classified transmissions, and tactical data all confirmed their theory. The Coraxians were building a wall of conquered worlds to defend against something approaching from deep space. "We need to tell the Council," Vale decided. "Everything we thought we knew about this war. We've been watching the wrong threat all along." Amanda's neural interface pinged with one last piece of data. Energy readings from the Perseus void were increasing. Whatever was out there, it was getting closer. The hidden game was about to become visible to all. The Serenian medical facility on Europa gleamed like a crystal palace under Jupiter's massive presence. Captain David Miller stood on the bridge of the U.S. Hawking, his neural interface humming with tactical data from the rest of the Fifth Fleet's positions. "Sir," his XO's voice carried an edge of concern. "Long-range sensors are picking up something big. Really big." The tactical display lit up with a new contact emerging from faster-than-light travel. The ship was unlike anything they'd seen in the Coraxian fleet before. A massive vessel that seemed to absorb all light around it. "Mother of God," someone whispered. "That's a planet killer." Miller's neural interface instantly connected him to Admiral Cooper and Dr. Roberts back on Earth. Their voices merged in his consciousness. "The facility has over 10,000 refugees inside, mostly children from the outer colonies. Evacuation would take hours." Through the neural link, Miller could feel the weight of every life aboard his ships, every heartbeat synchronized through their shared connection. They all knew what was coming. They all knew what had to be done. "Fifth Fleet," Miller broadcast, his voice steady. "Form up on my position. Protocol Aegis." Vale, observing from the medical facility, transmitted urgently to the Serenian High Council. "The humans. They're moving to intercept. But the planet killer. Its power readings are beyond anything we've recorded." The massive Coraxian vessel began charging its main weapon. The energy readings were sufficient to crack Europa's crust, destroying everything on the moon's surface. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "our shields won't withstand that level of energy. Not even with the neural enhancement." Miller nodded. "I know." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All hands, this is the captain. Everyone signed up knowing this day might come. Behind us are 10,000 souls who can't defend themselves. Children who deserve a future. The Coraxians think we'll run. Let's show them what humanity stands for." The Fifth Fleet moved as one, their neural links allowing perfect coordination. 37 ships, forming an overlapping barrier between the planet killer and Europa. The Coraxian vessel fired. Inside the medical facility, Vale watched in disbelief as human ships deliberately intercepted the energy beam, their shields failing one by one. But they didn't break formation. Even as their hulls began to buckle and burn, they held their position. Through the neural network, Miller broadcast one final message. "For Earth, for all of us." The U.S. Hawking's hull temperature reached critical levels. Warning systems screamed across every deck. But not a single ship moved from its defensive position. In the Serenian High Council chamber, Vale's transmission caused unprecedented chaos. They're sacrificing themselves, not for tactical advantage, not for victory, simply to protect others. The energy beam finally dissipated. Of the 37 ships that formed the barrier, 29 were completely destroyed. The remaining 8 were critically damaged. But behind them, the medical facility stood untouched. 10,000 refugees, saved by human sacrifice. The planet killer, its main weapon depleted, began charging for a second shot. But before it could fire, something unprecedented happened. The crystalline structure of the medical facility began to change. Surfaces that had been transparent became reflective. Angles shifted, forming new geometries. High Council. Vale transmitted, their mental voice shaking with emotion. I request an emergency override of the non-intervention protocols. We cannot. We must not stand by and watch this anymore. The facility itself transformed into a weapon. Crystalline surfaces focused and amplified energy, creating a beam of pure, coherent light that struck the planet killer's main weapon port. The massive ship exploded in a cascade of chain reactions. In the debris field that was once the Fifth Fleet, Captain Miller opened his eyes in his escape pod. His neural interface was barely functioning, but he could still feel the survivors' collective relief and grief. A transmission came through, not in words, but in pure emotional resonance. The Serenians had made their choice. After 50,000 years of neutrality, they had chosen to fight, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Serenian High Council chamber was designed to amplify harmony and suppress discord. For 7 days straight, it failed at both tasks. Vale stood before the assembled counselors, their crystalline form projecting the recorded memories of the Battle of Europa on an endless loop. Look, Vale insisted, showing once again the moment the Fifth Fleet held formation against impossible odds. Look at how they died. We see death, First Speaker Luminara countered, their form pulsing with disapproval. Violence. The very things we have stood against for 50 millennia. Dr. Amanda Roberts waited in the antechamber, invited as humanity's representative, but forced to watch the proceedings from afar. Through her neural interface, she monitored the emotional resonance of the debate. The Serenians' crystalline bodies emitted distinct frequencies based on their emotional states, and right now, they were in turmoil. Show them, Vale requested. With a thought, Amanda transmitted the neural recordings from the Fifth Fleet's final moments. The chamber filled with the combined consciousness of 37 human crews facing death, not with fear or hatred, but with resolute determination to protect others. These are not the thoughts of barbarians, Vale argued, not the emotions of creatures driven by violence. They died thinking of the children they were saving, the future they were protecting. The council chamber resonated with conflicting frequencies as the debate intensified. 50,000 years of tradition waited against this unprecedented moment. Amanda stepped forward, though she knew it broke protocol. May I speak? The chamber fell silent. No non-Serenian had ever addressed the High Council directly. First Speaker Luminara's form shifted in surprise, then nodded. You call yourselves the peaceful ones, Amanda began, her voice carrying clearly through the crystalline chamber. You've watched 12 civilizations fall to the corrections. You've watched millions die or become enslaved. Tell me, how is that peaceful? Murmurs of discord rippled through the council. Sometimes, Amanda continued, the most violent act is to stand by and do nothing. You've watched us fight not because we love violence, but because we hate what happens when good people do nothing. She raised her hand, neural interface glowing. Let me show you something else. The chamber filled with new images, humans providing medical care to injured Correxian prisoners, Earth ships escorting refugee vessels from multiple species, children from fallen worlds being adopted into human families. This is who we are, Amanda declared. We fight so others don't have to. We die so others might live. And yes, we kill when we must, but never out of hatred, never for conquest, only to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Vale moved to stand beside her. The question isn't whether we should break 50,000 years of tradition. The question is whether our tradition of non-intervention has become a form of violence itself. First Speaker Luminara rose, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. Dr. Roberts, if we were to assist, what would you ask of us? Not weapons, Amanda replied. You have something far more valuable. Knowledge. Understanding. You've studied the corrections for millennia. Help us understand them. Help us end this war with as little bloodshed as possible." The chamber erupted in debate again, but this time the frequencies were different. The discord was resolving into harmony, but not the kind the chamber was designed for. This was a new harmony, one born of purpose rather than passive peace. After 7 days of continuous session, the High Council reached its decision. First Speaker Luminara approached Amanda, their form now pulsing with a determination she'd never seen in a Serenian before. "We choose to stand with Earth," they announced. "Not as warriors, but as teachers. We will share all we know of the Coraxians, their psychology, their technology, their weaknesses, and perhaps we will learn from you as well." As Amanda's neural interface transmitted the news back to Earth, she felt the collective relief and determination of humanity. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, they had hope of winning it without becoming the very thing they fought against. The peaceful ones had chosen their side. Now they would learn what true peace costs. Admiral Cooper stood in the newly constructed Strategic Operations Center, surrounded by a hybrid of human and Serenian technology. The crystalline interfaces pulsed in harmony with the neural networks, creating a command center unlike anything in human history. "Show me the Coraxian command structure again," he requested. The holographic display shifted, revealing an intricate hierarchy of light and shadow. Dr. Amanda Roberts and Vale moved their hands in unison, manipulating the display. "It's beautiful in its rigidity," Amanda observed. "Every Coraxian commander is neurally linked to their superior, all the way up to the high command. They think it makes them stronger. It makes them vulnerable." Vale added, their crystalline form gleaming with purpose. "Their entire military operates on absolute obedience. No independent thought is permitted." Commander Martinez's hologram appeared in the center of the display. "The Ghost Fleet is in position, Admiral. Operation Achilles is ready to begin." Cooper nodded, his neural interface synchronizing with the command network. "Dr. Roberts, are you certain about this?" Amanda's fingers danced across the crystalline controls. The Serenian archives confirmed it. Coraxian neural networks are one-way only, designed for control, not collaboration. They'd never imagined someone could turn that against them. The plan was audacious. Instead of attacking Coraxian ships, they would target the one thing the enemy never thought to defend, their own command structure. "Ghost Fleet, initiate Phase 1, Cooper ordered. Across the sector, human ships equipped with Serenian crystalline technology began broadcasting on precisely calculated frequencies. The signals, designed by Amanda's team, mimicked Coraxian command protocols. "Their neural networks are detecting conflicting orders," Vale reported, monitoring the enemy's response. "The rigid hierarchy is trying to process commands that seem to come from multiple superiors simultaneously." The effect was immediate. Coraxian ships began moving erratically, their crews unable to determine which orders were genuine. Some vessels opened fire on their own allies, while others retreated from battles they were winning. "Phase 2, Cooper commanded. Commander Martinez, you have a go." The Ghost Fleet struck with surgical precision, targeting command ships identified by Serenian intelligence. But instead of destroying them, they used modified neural interfaces to inject false sensory data directly into the Coraxian command network. "Their high command is seeing defeat everywhere they look," Amanda explained, watching the chaos spread through enemy ranks. "Every victory appears as a loss. Every successful defense reads as a catastrophic failure." Vale's form pulsed with something close to awe. "In 50,000 years of observing the Coraxians, we never considered using their own discipline against them. We thought victory required matching their violence." "Sometimes the strongest weapon is understanding your enemy," Cooper replied, watching as entire Coraxian battle groups began retreating from human space. But victory didn't come without cost. Several Ghost Fleet ships were destroyed when their neural interfaces got too close to Coraxian defenses. Each loss rippled through the human network, felt by every connected consciousness. "They're not just retreating," Amanda suddenly announced, studying the tactical display. "Look at their flight patterns. They're all converging on a single point, at the edge of the Perseus void. Vale's crystalline structure vibrated with concern. The thing they've been running from. They think they're being driven right toward it. Cooper's neural interface flashed with urgent data. All ships, hold position. Do not pursue into the void. Repeat, do not pursue. The massive Coraxian fleet, now in complete disarray, vanished into the darkness beyond known space. In their wake, they left behind countless liberated worlds and a changed galaxy. It worked. Martins transmitted from her command ship. We actually did it. But Amanda's expression remained troubled as she studied the long-range sensors. Admiral, the energy readings from the void. They're still increasing. Whatever the corrections we're running from is still coming. Vale finished. Cooper straightened his uniform, looking at the assembled human and Serenian staff. Then we better be ready when it gets here, because this time we face it together. The war with the corrections was ending, but humanity's greatest challenge still waited in the darkness beyond the stars. The Correction Supreme Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, his neural interfaces disconnected for the first time in 40 years of service. Behind him, Dr. Amanda Roberts and Vale waited quietly while Admiral Cooper stepped forward. "You understand the terms of surrender?" Cooper asked, his voice carrying no trace of triumph or malice. "We do," the Supreme Commander replied, his proud features drawn with exhaustion. "But you don't understand what you've done. Driving us back to the void. You've doomed us all." Amanda exchanged glances with Vale, their months of shared research flowing between them. "Actually," she said, stepping forward, "we understand better than you think. Show them." The holographic display activated, showing the combined findings of human innovation and Serenian knowledge. The energy patterns from the Perseus void resolved into recognizable forms, massive beings of pure energy, drawn to consciousness itself. "They're not hostile," Amanda explained. "They're curious. Your Empire's rigid neural network acted like a beacon, drawing them from their dimension into ours. They wanted to understand you." The Supreme Commander's eyes widened. "But our readings showed exactly what your fear told you to see." Vale interrupted, their crystalline form pulsing gently. "You interpreted their attempts at contact as aggression, because that's all you understood." Cooper activated his neural interface, sharing the feed with everyone present. "Watch." The display showed human ships approaching the void, not with weapons armed, but with a new type of neural network, one that combined human empathy, Serenian wisdom, and even adapted elements of Coraxian technology. The energy beings responded, not with the devastating force the corrections had feared, but with patterns of light that matched the peaceful overtures. "Your empire was built on control," Amanda said softly. "Ours is built on connection. That's the difference." The Supreme Commander sank into his chair, decades of warfare weighing on his shoulders. "All this time, all those worlds we conquered, can be rebuilt," Cooper finished. "Together." The peace treaty that followed wasn't just an end to war. It was a beginning of something entirely new. The Galactic Protection Council was formed, headquartered in a spectacular structure that combined human, Serenian, and Coraxian architecture. Former enemies worked side by side, their different perspectives strengthening rather than dividing them. Amanda stood with Vale on the Council's observation deck 6 months later, watching ships from dozens of species moving through space lanes that had once been battle zones. "The energy beings have made contact with 3 more dimensions," Vale noted, their form shimmering with excitement. "They say we're unique in the multiverse, the only reality where 3 such different species chose to overcome their nature and work together." Amanda smiled, her neural interface picking up the frequencies of hundreds of minds working in harmony below. Former Coraxian warriors now helped coordinate refugee resettlement. Serenian philosophers worked with human scientists to explore the fundamentals of consciousness itself. "We fought because we had to," she reflected. "But we won because we chose to understand instead of destroy." A small ship caught her attention, one of the first joint designs, crewed by members of all three species. Its mission was to explore the Perseus void, not with weapons or shields, but with the combined knowledge and wisdom of three civilizations who had learned that true strength comes from unity, not dominance. Admiral Cooper joined them, his uniform now bearing the insignia of the Protection Council. "Ready for your next mission, Doctor?" Amanda nodded, feeling the familiar excitement of discovery. "The energy beings have invited us to explore their dimension. They say there are wonders we can't imagine, and threats we don't yet know about," Cooper added. "That's why we go together," Vale responded. "Because the peaceful ones finally learned that sometimes the greatest peace comes not from avoiding conflict, but from standing together to face it." As their ships prepared for the journey into unknown space, Amanda reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had proved itself not just through fighting prowess, but through the ability to turn enemies into allies, to transform understanding into strength, and to face the unknown not with fear, but with hope. The stars beckoned, and this time, all of humanity's children would explore them together.